Guten Tag. You know, I'm starting to believe that the other parties are so terrified, so seriously frightened of the NDC current administration, they are even afraid to ask questions. And I understand the response and the way they tried to treat me. Of course, it might have intimidated you guys. But you're there, you're local. You're the ones who should be demanding that your questions be answered. Now, a few months ago at the town hall, and I think by now everybody in the world is familiar with what happened at the town hall, and the questions asked about Polaris. Simple questions about that $22 million that was spent. And as I have said, the costs of the entire architectural plans for that $250 million hospital is $54 million EC. 22 million EC has been spent so far. And to this day, we cannot see what was done for that 22 million. All the government received was a 15% concept plan from the much touted architectural company, Perkins and Wells. Now, in the chaos that occurred at the town hall, subsequently, the leader of the administration, the Prime Minister, said that his administration is one of the most transparent administration that Grenada has seen. His words, not mine. And he said to the crowd and myself that he would ensure that the ministry, Mr. Cornwall, the chief financial officer, explains to the Grenadian people how that 22 million was spent. Months have passed. Now we have to understand, you don't have to go and dig up in some old ledger book and turn pages to find out that information, if it is available. That information in this technological age, by a couple clicks on a computer or laptop, you can have access to that information. So the question is, why that information as to how that 22 million was spent is not made available to the mass of Grenadian people? And another pertinent question is, why the opposition is not demanding that that information be made available as was promised. So I'm wondering here, is the opposition and the current administration in cahoots, that the opposition is not calling every day or every week for that information to be made available, and obviously the current administration is not making that information available? Now the question is also, why other parties, the DPM, the GULP, the CAGCP, are not demanding that that 22 million spent be explained to the Grenadian people, and why they are not demanding that those documents be released. So when I tell you that it is only the GSDP that has the guts, the will, the integrity, and the belief that they are the ones to stand up to this NDC administration, that is not an understatement. That is facts, as has been proven. We have seen how Mr. Nicholas Macmillan in the St. George Northeast has held the current serving MP of that constituency. We've seen how he has held him accountable, and the potential running candidate for the other parties. We have seen, just by the calling out of the problems at the Tempe playing field, that we were able to get it fixed. So I am baffled. I am confused why the opposition, the DPM, the GULP, and the CAGCP are not calling for an explanation and release of the documents as to how that 22 million was spent on Polaris thus far, only to receive a 15% concept plan. Why is it only the GSDP that is demanding that that information be made available? Again, I have a suspicion. I believe that one of these parties, okay, they are afraid that the entanglement with the CBI would be cut off by this current administration, and that is why they're playing these games and are not saying anything. I also believe the opposition and all the parties and MPs who are benefiting from that 10,000 constituency allowance are afraid to ask questions about the 22 million on Polaris, because I've seen it happen before in a very slick way. The leader of this current administration is intimidating them and is always threatening, so to speak, that he would demand that they explain what the $10,000 constituency allowance is being spent on. So that is why the opposition and other MPs in Parliament are hesitant and are afraid to ask a question about the $22 million that was spent on Polaris. It is as clear as daylight. We understand what is taking place. Now this is not how you hold the current administration accountable. If you in opposition and you, the other parties that are telling us that you want to become leaders in government and hold the reins of government, and you cannot stand up for the Grenadian people right now, then how the Grenadian people can trust you to stand up for them when you're in government? When the challenges that you are going to face if you make it in government will be more monumental than what you're facing right now. And you didn't get up and stand up to the task, didn't show any courage and stand firm for the Grenadian people. Why should the Grenadian people trust that you will stand up for them when you're in government? There's a serious question of credibility here. And it's not just a question of credibility. It's also a question of fundamental ability. If you do not understand what is going on with Polaris, if you do not have people within your organizations that understand infrastructural projects, then the question is, how would you assist in building Grenada? A major part of development and building a country involves infrastructure. It involves construction. So if you, in the other parties, could not have seen what was transpiring or transpired in the initial stages of Polaris, then it makes me believe that you do not understand what is taking place. Is that the question, GULP? Is that the question, CAGCP? Is that the question, DPM? And of course, is that the question, NNP? I would like to believe, especially in the NNP's case, based on their track record in being involved in many infrastructural projects, I will hate to believe that they do not understand what has transpired or what is transpiring with Polaris. So the question is, why have you remained silent? Have you lost your acumen and ability for infrastructure? Is there some other motive for not holding this administration accountable for all the shenanigans that they are doing on Polaris? One thing is for sure, that the GSDP understands infrastructure. Okay? The GSDP from day one has called out, has exposed, has unmasked what we have always called the Ponzi scheme and sham that is Project Polaris. But, as I have said, there are some people that I like to call the Grenada Nationalist Patriotic Front. These are people who are not going to let this go. Remember, I said, TikTok, it's coming. We are going to hold people accountable. And if you think that we are going to sit by idly while you bamboozle, take for granted, manipulate, and self-enrich off the backs of Grenadians, well, you have a different thing coming. The people of the GSDP are made of croup steel. The people of the GSDP and a few good men and women are made of croup steel. And we will stand firm for Grenada. We're not going to sit by here and see people come with fledgling business, struggling little businesses, and after 2 years of getting involved in government, purchasing $1.2 million property? By what measure? Okay? By what matrix? By what math that you come into politics and after 2 years, you're purchasing $1.2 million property? Well, Grenadians, you must have lost your goddamn minds to allow this to be done in your name, to allow this to be done on your hard work and labor. So what? People could come and ride your backs and live lofty lives off of your backs and labor? You must be out of your minds. You must be out of your minds. This is the greatest transfer of wealth in such a short space of time, within 4 years, that has taken place and has taken place in Grenada. These charlatans, socialists, Marxists, and imposters, okay? This is the greatest transfer of wealth that has taken place in such a short space of time. You must be out of your mind. You must be out of your minds, Grenadians, to have people take you for granted, to manipulate you with sweet talk and ice cream pans and take advantage of you. You must be out of your minds. The GSDP has shown time and time again that they are willing to ask the unpopular questions, that they are willing to stand firm for the people of Grenada, and bold and brave without fear or favor. Now there is a party in the GSDP of guts that is willing to stand up for the Grenadian people even when they're not in office. So obviously you can imagine that when they get into office, they'll be more than willing, more than able to stand up for the people of Grenada. You, the mass of Grenadian people, far and wide, this is something that you should consider. And this is something that you should acknowledge, you should see and recognize. And when you go to the polls, realize and know who had your back. The GSDP, the Grenada Social Democratic Party. Grenada belongs to all of we. And together, hand in hand, Grenada will realize its full potential with the GSDP.